What's
For
up?
friends, we are with Nicholas Patrick. Nicholas is a Maryland-based entrepreneur. He owns 3 stores, Embrace CBD and Wellness, all over the kind of more the Baltimore region, as opposed to like I guess what we call suburban Maryland. It's all suburban Maryland, you know. Nicholas has come to us with, oh my God, he's got political experience, he's got business experience, he's got he's a family man. You know, he's a man of the church. So we got a whole bunch to talk about today, but we're not going to keep them all day. Nicholas, welcome to Friday with Friends. Please introduce yourself and tell us your story and about what's the path that sort of led you into the hemp industry.
Well, thank you, Derek. First of all, it's been super cool to meet you and build a friendship and relationship with you. I think you're one of the good guys and one of the few like true pure-blooded entrepreneurs that are just out here trying to make it happen, bootstrapping things from the ground up. So I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. So my name is Nicholas Patrick. I am the owner of Embrace CBD Wellness Centers. We opened our first store in 2019, a month after the 2018 federal farm bill was ratified. I have 3 locations, one in Glen Burnie, one in Pasadena, one in Ellicott City, so spread across Anne Arundel and Howard County. I got into the industry because I love this plant and I love what it does for people. I'm what you would consider a purist when it comes to this plant and an idealist. And I think that makes me very lonely, but I know that I'm among friends today.
Yes, you are.
There's very few people that I think in the industry at large, particularly the cannabis side of the industry, that actually take the type of care and time that I think those of us in the hemp industry do as it relates to our love for the plant and our love for the people. I guess my story, just to do it real quick, would be that I had cancer in 2012. And I went through chemotherapy, and cannabis was a very, very good friend to me during that time. I personally am not somebody who enjoys being high all the time. I actually get very panicky if I smoke a lot of weed. But when I was going through chemo, it was the only thing that helped me to eat and be able to keep my food down because I was vomiting constantly. And it was the only thing that would help me sleep, as well as help me, if only for a moment, be able to forget about the fact that I was fighting for my life. I became infatuated with cannabis science. My background is in leadership development and sales training. So I spent a lot of time in a direct sales and network marketing company that specialized in home and business essential services and building out sales organizations to sell those products. And I was very successful in that. And I got very tired of being on the road all the time. And my wife and I we wanted something that we could own, that was ours, that the rules and the goalposts wouldn't constantly be changed on us. And so, which is ironic to say, considering where we are now. We decided to take, my wife had, her grandparents had left her about $8,000 in a college fund that she didn't know about. And so we had this $8,000 sitting around, and we put a couple G's of our life savings on top of it and started one store with 4 products and no sign and empty cases in a 800 square foot facility that had bright pink walls. So we had to scrounge up money just to buy paint to paint the place. And we ended up hiring a homeless guy named Victor, and we gave him a teddy bear outfit from the movie Ted. It was the Halloween costume from the movie Ted, which is a movie about a teddy bear that smokes weed. Right. And we gave him this teddy bear suit and a sign that said CBD store. And he stood out in Crane Highway in Glen Burnie and waved people into the store. Wow. And that was kind of the humble beginning of what is now the highest rated, as far as Google ratings and Yelp ratings go, CBD store in the state of Maryland, doing over close to $1.5 million in annual sales across our 3 locations. We have a stellar reputation for education, for quality control, and for customer service. And we, as idealistic and also as kind of cliche as this may sound, we truly place people over profits. We truly care about the customer that comes in the door. And I think that's kind of the reason why we've been able to grow, because our industry doesn't allow for all types of marketing. So everything that we've done has really been word of mouth. And I think the overall customer experience of coming in and talking to knowledgeable people that actually, for lack of better words, that actually care. And so that's the story of it, long and short. And then obviously I think we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the challenges and the problems that we're facing as an industry. But I think that's a pretty good way to sum up how I got into it, why I got into it, and kind of what we're doing now.
That we've known each other for a while. This is the first time I've heard you mention like your health issues and your health scare. You truly are a cancer survivor in every sense of the word. You know what I mean? Here you are out here putting extra energy in above and beyond your business, fighting a legal battle here in Maryland. And before we kind of get to that, let's talk about the association you're affiliated with, the Maryland Healthy Alternative Association. Tell us about the association and how you're impacting the Maryland hemp industry, the Maryland hemp community.
It's a great question, Derek. Well, the Maryland Healthy Alternatives Association was formed in February of last year out of sheer necessity. The truth is that the hemp industry has, for the better part of, I guess, 4 years now, been operating in the grayest of gray areas, protected by federal law, but also a wildly creative and innovative industry that has been unregulated. And as a result of government inaction, particularly at the state's Department of Agriculture,
no doubt,
and the ridiculous amount of interest in this space, and it led to and obviously the income potential from anything related to cannabis attracted a lot of people into an industry that was largely unregulated. And as a result of that, there was a bad bill introduced in the legislative session in 2022 that threatened to eliminate Delta-8 THC products, as well as any other hemp-derived THC isomer that is protected by federal law. That would have upended the hemp industry from top to bottom, because whether people know it or not, products like Delta-8 and other cannabinoids, whether you like them or you don't, are propping up 70% of the hemp industry nationwide. We saw a massive boom in CBD in the beginning of 2019. There was a lot of interest and a lot of excitement around it. And what happened was a lot of people got into the space, particularly on the cultivation side, and it drove the prices of the raw ingredients into the ground. And people had tons and tons and tons of excess product. So it was a race to the bottom in price. At the exact same time, the kind of hype and buzz around CBD began to die down, and the hemp industry saw a massive decrease in sales. And around that time, people, as I said, in the hemp industry are very innovative, and we're figuring out ways to convert this surplus of biomass and CBD isolate that they had, and began using that to create Delta-8 THC products, which then drove the prices of the raw ingredients back up, gave retailers like myself a variety of new products to offer customers, and also gave a bridge between the CBD user and the cannabis user, something in the middle, which was Delta-8, which was nowhere near as potent as traditional cannabis, but more in many ways, especially when combined with CBD, creating that entourage effect, more beneficial to the therapeutic side of the hemp industry, which is where CBD was primarily occupying that space. So the Delta-8 industry was very big. And when those two bills came out last legislative session threatening that, myself, a gentleman named Daniel Simmons, and another gentleman named Levi Sellers. Daniel was a wholesale distributor and retailer and manufacturer, and Levi is a producer and manufacturer and cultivator. And so we all kind of bonded together, formed this association with the intention of pushing back on this bill. We actually did really well the first year. We were able to raise about $50,000 in 3 days. We hired a lobbying firm, and we were able to create some opposition to those bills. And we were successful in converting that into a study. But the Healthy Alternatives Association since then has grown to many members across every segment of the Maryland hemp industry, up to and including the consumers. We have some consumers that are monthly contributors. So we have growers and cultivators, we have manufacturers and processors, we have wholesale distributors, and we have a ton of retailers, as well as some consumers who have kind of joined the fight with us as well. So that's kind of the long and short of why we started and who we're a part of. but the Maryland Healthy Alternatives Association exists for two reasons. Number one, to protect the public's access to safe alternatives to prescription drugs, and number two, to protect the businesses who provide that access.
Okay, that's awesome. And I'm sure I'm more than sure, because I'm appreciative of your efforts and your fight, because you're fighting for us, not just the people that the state agrees, quote unquote, has the right to be in business, but you're fighting for everybody, and even the people, I think there's a lot of people out there in business right now, bringing up transactions that have no idea what you're doing, and this is why we do these interviews to spotlight people like yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. At my core, Derek, I'm a freedom-loving, free market capitalist. I believe in the American economy, and I believe in equal access to that economy. And I get very angry when people threaten the overall spirit of the American entrepreneur, man. I mean, you gotta think about it. If there's overregulation or government action that strips somebody of a business, in my mind and in my view, and this is a personal view, that I think is very discouraging to an individual, especially if it's their first business, right? You have people that are trying to escape corporate America. They're trying to escape the rat race. They want to build generational wealth for their families, and they took a chance and in many cases made massive investments to take that chance, and probably had family members saying, why don't you get a real job? Or probably have friends saying, that'll never work. And they had to overcome incredible odds, and some people coming from economically disadvantaged neighborhoods or communities had to overcome even more odds, like you touched on in your testimony in the House hearing. And those people, I want to see them not only succeed, but I want to see them like get that sense of fulfillment that an individual gets when they succeed on something, when they bet on themselves and they freaking win. I'm the kind of guy, Derek, not to get too personal, but I sit here on this couch right here where I'm sitting, and I'm addicted in many ways to watching things like Shark Tank and also America's Got Talent. And I'm also kind of like a sensitive and emotional dude. So I'll sit here at times with real tears watching people just winning.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean, because you understand how much it's almost like that Andy Dufresne, like how much shit have you crawled through to get to the sunlight here? You know what I mean? And you're just like, oh my God, like it's finally happening. The shitstorm is ending. And if for someone who understands that and you see it happening for someone else, you could hate on it. But if you're a true human being, like, you know what I mean? You're happy, you're elated for them, There's
nothing like seeing somebody get to experience the sense of validation that they probably did not get from those closest to them.
That's
right?
a great word. Yes.
Because you have to overcome so much to win. And I know what it feels like, man. I know what it feels like to have my lights cut off and eat tuna fish out of a can. I know what it feels like to be poor. And I know what it feels like to have some wealth. And I know what it feels like to be in between and be in that hustle and to be in that grind. And so one of the reasons why I feel blessed, and I do believe that I was put here for this time and place for nothing else other than to at least be able to stick up for the little guy, even if we lose, to be able to say I fought for that, I think will give me that sense of validation that, like, the thing that goes off inside of me when I watch people win is there for a reason. Right. That, like, these people in these businesses are worth fighting for, and not just in the hemp industry, in any industry where people have to deal with the opposition from government regulation and government intervention. If you fail in your business because you suck at business, then you pick yourself up, you dust it off, you learn from your mistakes, and you try again. But if your business is robbed from you, it's not on you. And I think that's wrong, and that's only going to discourage people from owning a business, which is only going to encourage people to live more in this entitlement system and to live more like subservient to a company or the government, right? Where at the end of the day, man, if you don't fight for your dream, somebody will hire you very quickly to work for theirs, and they don't have much planned for you.
Nope.
And so I am
machine.
Dude, I'm just an advocate for entrepreneurs, dude. I freaking love them, man.
This is what America's like. The spirit of America is exactly what you're saying. People don't come here to get good jobs. They come here to dig inside themselves. What is my contribution to this country? What is my contribution to my community? And I want to pour that out. I want to give that to others. I want to make that exchange, with the general public. I think there's something there, man. But I think we're confusing people a little bit. So let's back up a little bit and talk about the impact of Maryland HB 556 and SB 516, and what that would have on Maryland consumers if these two bills, what are they, and what impact would they have on Maryland consumers if these bills pass as originally written?
All right, good. So first off, HB 556 and SB 516 are two versions of the same bill. HB is House bill, SB is Senate bill, and they're both the Cannabis Reform Act, which we all voted for, right? Like, we want to see the prohibition of cannabis end. This is the legislation that will legalize adult use cannabis in the state of Maryland for citizens above the age of 21, which will allow you to go and possess cannabis and grow cannabis and smoke cannabis and eat cannabis and do all the things you like to do with cannabis legally without having to worry now about any sort of criminal element to it. So this is a great bill. It prioritizes social equity. It prioritizes criminal justice. It prioritizes creating a banking structure for this industry in the state of Maryland. It's doing a lot of things that we like, but, and it's a big but. This is a big freaking but. This is a huge but, like Beyonce but, right? This is also the nail in the coffin for the small businesses and minority businesses and bootstrap businesses that we were just talking about in the hemp industry. The majority of cannabis operators are not us. They're not people who came from nothing. These are investment bankers. These are suits, not stoners. Okay, that's what I like to say.
Yep.
So this bill would take all of the products created by the hemp industry, CBD, full spectrum, any full spectrum CBG, CBN, all of the kind of non-intoxicating cannabinoids, as well as the Delta 8, the Delta 10, the HHC, the THCA, the everything that the hemp industry has innovated to create would be given and handed over to the already existing, already wealthy, previously wealthy cannabis operators by instituting a THC cap of 0.5 milligrams per serving and 2.5 milligrams per package. I'm looking for, baby, can you please bring me a tincture? Just to give you a visual aid of what I mean here. But putting a THC milligram cap on hemp products would take a product like this, which is this is an Embrace extracts created by me. This is our 3,000 milligram full spectrum tincture. This will not get you high. This is just full spectrum extract with cold pressed hemp seed oil as a carrier oil. Inside of this bottle, there's probably roughly like 30 some odd milligrams of Delta 9 THC. Now, if you were to drink this whole bottle to get high, you wouldn't be able to, because you'd probably vomit from the amount of oil you just drank. So this is a non-intoxicating product. Now, this THC cap would make this product that doesn't get you high illegal. And while I would be able to walk into a dispensary and buy any number of products that would get me high legally. This is ill-advised, backwards legislation that is being pushed specifically by the cannabis companies, their associations, and lobbyists. Now, I have some inside information on all of this stuff that we can go down, but I'll let you ask the questions. But Jake Van Wingerden from SunMed is also the chair of a cannabis association called CanMD, which is the Maryland Wholesale Medical Cannabis Trade Association. So it's a mouthful, but
that is a mouthful.
They go by CanMD, and the executive director underneath the president, the executive director of that, who is also their lead lobbyist, is a woman named Joy
Strand,
who is the previous director of the Maryland Medical Cannabis Commission, meaning she resigned from her job regulating cannabis companies for the government to go and lobby and work for the cannabis companies in the private sector, and get paid a lot of money to do so. So, and this guy, Jake Van Wingerden, has said that the cake is already baked. There's nothing we can do about it. He believes he's already bought the legislature, and which I don't believe you should be able to do, or that you can do. And they probably don't know that he's walking around saying that. I guarantee you, if Chairman C.T. Wilson heard that somebody said he was bought and paid for, that he'd have a couple of words for them.
I think so. I think he would.
But they're pulling the strings behind the scenes. They're lobbying for this. They spent last year $165,000 on lobbyists. They probably doubled and tripled that spend this year. They have some very powerful, very high-paid lobbyists that are pushing to consolidate and further monopolize their industry. They also created language, Derek, I don't know if you know, but there's this language that they added into the House bill. They got an amendment about pre-rolls, that dispensaries can no longer make their own pre-rolls. And that means at the same time that happened, Bronfine from Curio and Jake Van Wingerden bought 2 more massive pre-roll machines that can pump out 80,000 pre-rolls a day.
Wow.
So they're just these are monopolistic practices. I don't know necessarily, I'm not a lawyer, whether or not these violate antitrust laws, but this is a cartel. This is a cannabis cartel who is intentionally misleading the legislature to use the Maryland legislature as a tool to crush their potential competitors in the hemp industry. And so far, it's working. They're doing a pretty damn good job at it. And we're fighting an uphill battle here in a major way, but we're doing everything that we can.
So what does this mean for consumers? Say now, according to the bill, they want to enact recreational sales 7/1/2023. That's like 4 months from now. What does this mean to all these Delta 8 and full spectrum CBD consumers? Like, where do they go? They go to dispensaries to get this now, or are they just?
Yeah. So right now, these products are being sold at around, through our cursory research, about 11,000 retail establishments throughout the state, and that includes places like gas stations, corner stores, grocery stores, and stuff like that. Which, truth be told, like I want everyone to have equal access to this industry, but we also want to keep the stuff out of the hands of kids. We kind of know how those places do, so we may see it come out of those places. But right now, it's available damn near everywhere, right. And which is why we were able to do over $300 million in retail sale of this product, not including any of the wholesale or any of the other stuff. But
is that a 1-year number?
That's the cursory research for 2021 was roughly 300 million in sales of just Delta 8, not including all of the other stuff, the CBD, all the other stuff, so much.
In this particular state, not nationwide.
In Maryland. Actually, the economic impact report just came out for Florida yesterday. It was $15 billion, and that was done by Whitney Economics. That's one of the largest, and most well-versed in this kind of thing, economists that you could ever hire to do this. 15 billion with a freaking B. A billion is 1,000 millions. That's 15,000 millions, right? Wow. That's a lot coming out of Florida. And so consumers will have no choice but to purchase these products from a recreational cannabis dispensary. But the truth is, you and I both know that the existing cannabis industry has no appetite to sell CBD, to sell Delta 8, to sell HHC or Delta 10. They have no appetite to sell full spectrum. They don't care about CBG. They don't care about CBC, CBN. They don't care about any of these other minor cannabinoids, which have tremendous therapeutic benefit, man. Like, this is why I wear shirts like this, because like you can look at this plant and then you see that this plant has 100 some odd known cannabinoids and so many more that we've yet to discover. And we're literally criminalizing all of them so that we can legalize just one. And that cannabis industry is only going to focus on that one cannabinoid, which is Delta 9 THC. And so the truth is, consumers will likely lose access to those products altogether.
Yeah, but it's crazy because in every other industry, consumers have choices. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, the comparison is always made to this end of these industries, I should say, medical marijuana and hemp to alcohol. And if we're comparing to alcohol, then I think a more fair comparison is liquor is not scared of beer and wine. They all coexist together. They're consumed together. They're sold together. You know, we enjoy them together. And that is, and the reason is there's one consumer comes in and he's a Scotchman or woman. One consumer comes in and they like wine. One consumer comes in like beer. That makes sense. Not everybody like the same thing. Not everybody's neurochemistry is the same. So you have to have options for people.
You would think that people cared about stuff like that, right? But at the end of the day, here's what happened. And here's the truth, right? The truth is that this I believe, was intentional to go to a ballot referendum last November. I met with Senator Feldman over the summer during a fundraiser event. It was very intimate. There was probably about 15 or 20 people there. And at which time he said, we don't have clue number one how we're going to do this. But we had a bill. I had a bill ready to go last session that I would have dropped, that we would have been able to deliberate, that we would have probably not worked all the way out, but had the framework to come back this year and work something out. But instead, there was too many competing viewpoints that we decided to send it to a ballot referendum. This was by design, heavily influenced by the big cannabis companies, because they knew if this could go to a ballot referendum in November, 70% of the state was going to say, hell yeah, we want legal weed, right? With that being said, they knew that if they passed it through a ballot referendum, that they would have to legalize it in ample time after the ballot referendum, which is why they picked a time like July 1st. Also, we live in a state where we have a part-time legislature. Our legislature meets for about 90 days. So they knew that if this passed on a ballot referendum, that they would have about 90 days to set up a freaking $2 billion industry. So they knew the legislature was going to have to rush. And when a legislature is running full speed to set up the infrastructure for a $2 billion industry, that they would look to the government agencies and the bureaucrats that run them for guidance. And they look to the MMCC. And the MMCC knew they would look to them. And the MMCC has been compromised by big cannabis money. And the MMCC used the opportunity to feed false information to the legislature, because the worst thing that can happen is the director of the MMCC gets fired. And what does he do then? He gets a job at SunMed for a lot more money than the state is paying. And this is their plan. And this is what it looks like. And there's nothing that you, me, or anybody else can do about it except make a whole bunch of noise and hope that we can show the legislature that they have had the blindfold pulled over their eyes while they sprint full speed all day, every day to set up an industry for the voters. That's what happened.
That is pretty layered, man. That's pretty layered. And you've done your homework, because wow. And I can't believe that's only happening in Maryland.
It's not. It's happening everywhere, man. It's happening in Florida. It's happened in Virginia. It's happening in North Carolina. It's happening in Texas. It's happening in Colorado. It's happening in California. It's happening everywhere, because this is the hostile takeover from large cannabis MSOs, which stands for multi-state operators. These cannabis MSOs are the next big pharma. And it also goes back to big pharma buying up all types of farmland. You don't think that they're behind all of this? That's
funny. That was the next question. Like, do you think there may be other industries pushing against hemp legalization and regulation as well? That's interesting.
Absolutely. Let's talk about GW Pharmaceuticals and the fact that they have a patent on CBD isolate. The reason why they have that patent is because the law states that a chemical cannot be used in a dietary supplement if it was first used in a prescription medication. So the hemp industry, knowing that they got screwed out of being able to have open source essentially for CBD, they started jamming out all types of cannabinoids. Here comes CBG, here comes CBC, here comes CBN, here comes Delta 8, here comes Delta 10, here comes HHC, here comes THCO, here comes THCP, here comes a whole bunch of shit you never even heard of. They're putting it out into the marketplace so that it's already been in a dietary supplement, and the big pharmaceutical companies are not going to be able to come in, swoop them up, and put a patent on that. So we're fighting them as well. Absolutely, man. It's big pharma. It's big cannabis, it's big tobacco. It's all of them. Everyone wants their piece, man. Weed's going to be legal at the federal level in the next 8 years. And when that happens, I mean, it's going to open the door for weed to be sold at freaking Walmart. We're going to be fighting everyone.
Wow.
But the truth is, that's what I want. I want weed in Walmart. I want weed the way you sell alcohol. Just sell it. And let the people who feel like they have value in the marketplace compete. And the ones who can't compete because they suck will lose, because that's how markets work, right? The big guys will ultimately swallow up the little guys, but when they swallow them up, at least the little guy gets a check.
Right.
And everyone gets to eat. And that's how it works. Is it fair? No. Is life fair? No. But when you limit licenses and you place these barriers to entry and you make it difficult for people, this is intentional monopolization.
It is like a cartel when you think about it in that way. Like the way that they're operating, it's like, it's like a progressive hostile takeover.
Dude, look up we looked it up today. Like, I'll read it to you. The definition of cartel: an association of manufacturers or suppliers with the purpose of maintaining prices at a high level and restricting competition. A coalition or cooperative arrangement between political parties intended to promote a mutual interest. Like, that is exactly what's happening.
That's exactly what's happening.
The cannabis cartel, man. Yeah.
And a lot of this, is we understand it's not full spectrum CBD that they're really afraid of. It's like the chatter comes down to Delta 8 and all these other isomerized cannabinoids. That has been a disruptor. It has been a disruptor. It just was able to embrace it in a way that they were not.
But I think that's what they were using to come after all of it, because they wanted all.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you don't think they were shitting their pants when the stats came out that said that the CBD industry will be a $22 billion industry? You don't think they were like, whoo? And you don't think that they realized that there's a lot of people who don't like getting high? They knew it. They knew it. And they were waiting, man. They've been priming for this. And they did it the right way this time. They were smart. Last year, they came after us with a standalone bill. Easy to push back on. This year, they put it into a $2 billion cannabis legalization bill that has to pass. So, they were smart this year. They knew what they were doing.
Wow.
I had to take my hat off to them.
No, I mean, you do. I mean, they played some serious chess here. And the crazy part is, it's like they're using this drug, this Epidiolex. It's like to say, well, because our goal was to be a manufacturer, start rocking out really creative, infused edibles here, a hip to ride. And they're not letting me do that. And they're saying that we can't do that because of this drug. But the thing is, their CBD is synthesized. It's not even plant derived. You know what I mean? It's like the
imagine that.
Thing. And they're talking about Delta 8 and the fear that it is synthesized and unregulated, which I totally understand, right? But how do you hamstring one industry on the synthesization point while you're sitting here with this synthesized CBD? It's crazy. Like the whole thing, it doesn't make any sense.
How do you? I mean, it's the same. How do you legalize an illegal industry while criminalizing a legal industry? This is so much backwards policy.
It is. And I have a feeling that one day all these guys are going to wake up at the Maryland State Legislature and realize that, whoa, like we were duped, Well,
like we're hoping that they
all MSOs and all the little guys have been swallowed up. They're like, we were duped.
Derek, we're hoping they wake up to that fact this week. Like we need them to wake up to that fact based off that Fox 45 segment that just aired, the Baltimore Sun article that came out today.
That's good.
The massive amounts of phone calls that they're receiving from the public. We're hoping they wake up to it sooner than later, because we met with Governor Westmore's office last Friday, and they said they needed more time to set up a regulatory structure that would build a bridge between the Department of Agriculture regulating the cultivation side of hemp and creating a bridge to have the Department of Agriculture regulate the consumable product side. But they need time to do that. And we had to say to the, I don't know if it was his chief of staff, but it was one of his staffers, high-ranking staffer at the governor's office. And we said to him, man, we really appreciate that. But if you don't figure out something soon, there won't be a hemp industry left for you to be building bridges.
No doubt.
So we've been trying to reach out to Westmore himself. I mean, he's far removed from this, and he will be able to say, if this thing falls, he'll be able to say, look, it's not on me. I just got here.
Right.
But our hope is that we can get him to intervene here in some way, whether it be through executive order to say, to prevent enforcement on hemp products until a study can be done with his new Department of Ag, or something, because he campaigned on no one left behind. And there's about to be hundreds of businesses shuttered, thousands of people without a job being left behind, not just for any arbitrary reason, but to favor the already existing massively wealthy cannabis establishment. That's not what he ran on. That's
really
not
unbelievable, honestly. Like if I was in another state, I would believe it, but I don't believe it here. It's like, it's really kind of shocking that this is happening. You know, you're clearly a cannabis advocate, and we thank you for your contribution to the culture and to the industry, especially for your contribution to the legislative end. Where do you want all this to take you? Is there like a plan to run for a congressional seat in the future, maybe? Or
oh man, you're like 30th person to ask me that. Truth is, man, once you get inside of this machine and you learn how it works and how dirty and gross it is, it makes me feel like there's no hope for somebody like myself to get in there and really affect change. You know, I say this all the time, and I've said this to everyone who's asked me that question. Is like, let's just say hypothetically, you wanted to run, and you would say, you know, I think it's unconscionable that less than 1% of Baltimore City public school students are proficient in math and reading, and you wanted to make education your main issue, and you're running for office based on that issue. When you get to you run the campaign, you do all these things, you bust your ass to get in there. Once you get there, you have to get the right committee assignment that's going to allow you to tackle an education issue.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for you to get to one of those more prestigious committees, you got to raise money for the party. And when you're forced to raise money for the party, your integrity begins to be chipped away at little by little, because now you have to take money from lobbyists and special interest groups, and they're expecting you to do something in return. So I think there's a lot of people who go in there with the purest of intentions, but when they get there, they realize there's a game being played, and you have to go along to get along. And I think little by little, they whittle away at your humanity and at your ability to resonate with the public. You know, your ability to identify with the average working Marylander or citizen. And so you become so far removed from it because you're spending your time around these elitists all the time that little by little you forget why you were there. And I think that's what happens. Without term limits, without people looking at this as actual public service and going for a couple of years and then going back to their job or their business and not making a career out of it, I don't think we stand a chance. So to answer your question, Derek, I don't know that I would be able to affect any change. It's almost like I would go there, and if I ever were to run, my campaign would just be like, look, I promise I'm not going to accomplish anything, but if you elect me, I'll open the door and let you see what's happening here. And every day I would just do press conferences every day and say, this is what happened in my committee today. This is what they talked about in meetings today. Nobody would trust me down there because I would air everyone's dirty laundry, because that's what we need. We need somebody to open the door and show the game that's being played. So where all this is going to end. I
believe none of those people are alive, man. Like, I believe there's people who's attempted that before, but they're not here to talk about it. You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
whatever you take that for what you want, but.
Well, look, man, before I became a Christian and that man that you introduced in the beginning, I was a different dude. And if I had one wish, I wish you would, you know? But no, in all seriousness, to answer your question, where do I see all this ending up? Truth is, all I want is a win for my industry, a win for my tribe, the people in this industry that care about the consumer, that care about the plant, that care about the science, that want to see the hemp industry not strangled and be able to innovate and grow. Because I do believe somewhere hidden inside of that plant is the issues to solve so many of the world's problems. When we talk about the climate crisis, everyone goes crazy about the climate crisis. Well, do you have any idea the type of biofuels that can be created from this plant? We talk about things like cancers. Oh my goodness, what happens when we truly harness the therapeutic benefits of this plant? When we're able to really like hone in on all the different cannabinoids, terps, and flavonoids and how they interact with things, or what we could add to create things that can change the world. I want that, man. My own personal ambitions are just to be able to stay in business, carve out a living to feed my family. I don't need to be the $100 million cannabis company, man. If I can pay my bills, pay my car payment, have some money to take my family on vacation, I'm happy, man. I'm not that guy. And so that's another reason I think I'd be a shitty politician. My ambitions don't revolve around me. I've always been a team player, man. I made my money in network marketing. I've always been a team guy.
It only takes one. I'm not trying to convince you, but I think if not you, there's going to be someone else like you that goes in there with the purity of heart. I want to touch on something you said earlier. I don't think that these people are all just corrupted. I believe that does happen. We were down there with the House meeting in the Senate hearings and such. And what I noticed, what my takeaway is, very few people read the bill. I think it's their age read the bill, and they get an abridged version, and they have to go on and talk about these things, with very little information, and then the fear stuff comes in. Oh, well, the kids and the blah, 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 public safety, and the things that you sort of have to pay attention to. But then there were so many other issues, like they were talking about sex education in schools and blah, 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 and all these other things. And you got to talk about these things in like 90 days. And how can you ever be an expert in these things? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, you can't be. That's why you rely on your specialists and your heads of these agencies, and that's where the corruption comes in.
No doubt. And you would think that they would come to us, the people, but like, it's crazy. We're in this legal industry, and it oftentimes I end my days feeling like I'm being treated like a criminal. You know what I mean?
If you're a cannabis company, what better way to monopolize your industry than to paint your competitors as felons?
No doubt, or like a public threat.
And make us look like the dope boys on the corner, selling harmful products that contain this and that. I mean, God, my goodness, man. What happened to us in the House with that fake fentanyl article? That killed us. They circulated a fake article that said Delta 8 gummies contain fentanyl. Legislative decisions were made in the House. It came out of committee, and then the freaking article was retracted to say there was no fentanyl in these gummies. It was all a lie. It was nonsense. The DA walked it back and everything.
Those buzzwords I'm talking about. You drop one of those things that people feel like, I have to respond. You know what I mean? Like, we have to take action.
I mean, the idea of protect the children is a moot point when you're legalizing weed. You're legalizing weed. The children are going to have equal access to their parents' purse to grab their legal weed gummies they bought at the dispensary, the same way the children would have access to buying a bag of Delta 8 gummies they bought from me or you.
They're letting them do homegrown. They could just go in the closet and just grab some if they wanted to. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. And then we're talking about this one product that is half as intoxicating as what they're selling. We're not trying to get people as high as possibly can, but yet we see THC levels going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. Like, you don't see this in alcohol. Like, you don't go by grain because it gets me more trash than anything else. Like, I think there's still a nuance to what we're doing. I don't know. I totally hear you. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to get on my soapbox. This is me interviewing you, not the other way around.
No, but this is two guys in the same space who built a friendship, having a discussion, and I think this needs to be heard. And I'm glad we did this today. I'm looking forward to having the video and being able to share it and letting people see what's really going on here. Man, this is a real issue that affects real people, real families, real consumers, and they're being gutted. They're being gutted by the very people they elected to lead them, because those people are being misled by the very people they trusted to give them good guidance. And those people have been corrupted by the very cannabis companies they were meant to regulate. And those people are greedy sons of bitches. And that's why we're here.
They see it. They see this cash tsunami coming from both of these industries, and they do definitely want to monopolize both, and it is unfortunate because there's enough for everybody, like there's enough room on the tree for it. If there's something that DC has done right, is they've allowed regular people to participate in this market and not just relegate it to a few, mistake or not. But and I think other there's other states out there that I think that we should be modeling ourselves after. Like Kentucky is regulating this. I think Texas. I'm not sure exactly what
Tennessee.
Their Tennessee is taking steps to regulate.
West Virginia.
Now, granted, those states are more relied. Their income and tax base relies on agriculture way more than it does Maryland. It means more to them because of that. You know what I mean? The sheer acreage. And I do get that, but we are an agricultural state too. There's a whole eastern shore section of this state, and not just that, but the northern parts that the border of Pennsylvania that are heavily reliant on agriculture that could really, really use like this boom to and it seems like
I mean the type of investment we could bring into the
people coming up, the
type of investment we could bring to this state as a port state for the hemp industry.
No doubt.
I mean, we can reach the entire continental United States in a 24-hour truck drive.
That's
anywhere.
Point.
Like let us live, man. Come on.
Great point. So, we're gonna pull it back a little bit. What do you do in your free time? Like, I guess aside from all of this, like what ways do you do to de-stress? Right?
Oh man, dude, I'm a nerd. I'm a big comic book nerd. So like
really?
if I were to take my computer downstairs, I would show you my basement that's just covered in like action figures and sounds so nerdy. I'm 37 years old and I'm such a child on the inside, but I have a friend of mine who's has a 3D printer and he prints these like these statues of different superheroes and not just superheroes. You ever see the movie Tombstone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
So I just got the cast of Tombstone. I got it in probably like 75 pieces.
Wow.
I paint the individual pieces, I glue them together, and I make them. I got a whole shit ton of them downstairs. So I do that, and I'm very big into music, man. I'm a Christian hip hop artist myself. And so I'm really big into music and into comic books. And my favorite thing to do is to spend time with my wife and my son. And I like playing golf. I'm a family guy, man. I love my family and I love my nerdy pastimes.
See, this is what I'm talking about. I'm just on the audience right now. This is not a dangerous human being. This is not someone who goes to work every day preying on people in the way that he's been painted. You know what I mean? It's just like,
oh man, none of us are, man. Not any of the good guys that are in the fight, man. The bad guys, you're never going to see their faces. You're never going to hear their stories because they're somewhere trying to remain hidden. If we're in the limelight, you think we would draw attention to ourselves if we were doing the wrong things?
No doubt. We just want something to build, man. We found this thing. You said we're heavily invested. We're talking like farmers to scientists to testing labs to retailers, to all different types of manufacturers of cartridges, dabs, edibles of all kinds, hardware, like that. There's so much that we have contributed to the tax base. And I don't recall Maryland rejecting the tax money. I don't recall that happening. But I just want to point that out. That seemed like they're very appreciative of the money that we were bringing in.
You would think.
You would think. So, I mean, this is, if anything, this interview is really, like you said, a conversation between two peers, but it's also a plea, honestly, to the state of Maryland. I want these people to hear exactly what we're talking about and the people who are going to be impacted and their families and the next generation. You used to throw a father out of business. You think a son's going to want to go into business? You're like, no. He's going to be like, look what happened to my dad. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. You're ruining the American dream. It's unbelievable, like exactly what's happening.
Exactly. And for the viewers who are going to watch this video, Derek has been an integral part in this fight. He gave some freaking earth-shattering testimony at the House hearing, and I think it's important that your viewers and the people that you're going to be sharing this to know that like Cherry Blossom Hemp is also very involved in this fight, and that they should support businesses that are doing this kind of work, because it's not easy to do. It puts a target on your back. It's frustrating. And so those of us who are in the fight, who are showing up to the hearings, who are writing the emails, who are trying to engage the public, if you're watching this as a consumer, you should support those brands, because those are the ones that are fighting to move the industry forward. So I just wanted to say that. I think it's important that people know, even though you're here to interview me, I wanted people to know the role you played in this as well. So
appreciate that. Well, we always do, like, we finish up with like a shameless plug portion of the show, where you get to promote either your business, your mission, whatever it is, perhaps show how the MMHA or Embrace CBD are helping people in the culture, whatever you want, whatever you think is appropriate. But you got a minute on the clock, man. So it's all you. You tell the people what you want to hear.
I think the most important thing is to help us push this industry forward, save the small business owners here, and go to healthyalternativesmd.org and click the donate now button. Every dollar you give, no one takes a salary at the MHAA. We're not taking any money out of this thing. Every dollar is being used to further this fight. In fact, it was your dollars that helped us send out text blasts to 40,000 consumers yesterday and get a whole bunch of annoying phone calls to legislators. And it was very, very helpful. So that's the most important thing. I mean, you can go to embraceextracts.com and learn about my company, but that company may not exist in 90 days. So the most important thing is that we fight for this industry by going to healthyalternativesmd.org, donating today, and help us, myself and Derek, and all those like us, stay in business. It's the most important thing.
Oh, man. Brother, thank you. Thank you for your time. I know you're doing your family time right now. So I thank you for sharing even with me. We're going to get this out to as many people as possible. I love you, dog. I thank you for your effort, man.
No doubt, bro. Love you too. Talk soon.
Yes, sir. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.